Christ. So well, the difficulties in writing a history of Europe on this scale at this time are really truly enormous, to be serious just for a second. The historiography is huge, and it's growing all the time, of course, and in all the languages that are current in Europe. And it's even worse in a period like the 16th and 17th century, which is one of extreme division, because there really is no consensus amongst historians of different countries, no agreement about the periodization that you should see it in, sometimes no agreement about what the major problems are, and certainly no consensus about how they relate to one another. So that gives you a sense of how difficult it is, I mean, to work within a national framework, to write the history of England, to write the history of the British Isles. There are some elements of consensus on which you can draw. To write the history of Europe is a different order of magnitude. The book was started here in Sheffield, and so this launch is a celebration of what that means to the book and means to me, to the colleagues and friends who've sustained me in the project, and others, other projects, that's to say, even madder than this one over the years. But I already knew, not long after I started writing it, that the book really couldn't be written here in Sheffield. It couldn't be finished here. You know, location is a major part of how you see a book, how you shape it, and the location of this book is important to the way in which it works. The majority of it was actually written in Paris, in the Bibliothèque Nationale, which has got a terribly bad press of late because it's in a sort of horrible, modern, technocratic building, the printed books bit. But actually it's a wonderfully efficient place to work once you've got your handle round how it works. And particularly for a book like this, where you have to follow your hunches, you have to go with, oh, that perhaps might be an interesting way of making that point. And you have to know what it is half you're looking for, but you're not quite sure where to look for it. And the Bibliothèque Nationale, more than not, came up with the kinds of things that gave depth and weight to the argument. The second place which mattered in the writing of it was Freiburg in Germany. That lovely, welcoming city on the edge of the Black Forest. Certainly welcomed me and Emily. Not far from the Rhine, but also not far from where the Danube rises, and you could therefore on that basis say that you're in the middle of Europe, between the two rivers which determine its geography. And these locations were both doorways, as it were, into appreciating the scale, the diversity of Europe, and the hugeness of the changes to the landscape over the period that I was trying to deal with, the mental and material landscapes, as it were, which the book tries to delineate. If you go onto the website, these days trade books have to have a website, and this is no exception. There's additional material related to the book and also a blog, and it's Daniel. I don't know where Daniel is. Daniel's son. Daniel, my glasses are Daniel, sorry. Well, Daniel's the whizzo genius behind all that, especially in the technical realms. And the first item on the blog is actually from the unofficial launch of the book, which was in, of all places, Gotha, in Thuringian Saxony, a couple of months back. Only by going to Gotha can you sort of understand the intellectual dynamics of some of the things that are happening in 19th century Germany, I think. And it's there in the castle, begun at the end of the 30 Years' War, constructed by Ernest the Pious, who sort of looks down his nose at you from a statue in the square, where a bunch of really bright German academics gave this text a sort of run for its money, put it through its paces. And at one point, one of them said, of course, Gotha is in the middle of Europe. And I did a double take. And they all nodded and explained that actually Gotha is geographically halfway across Europe. So you have to go that far east before you get to halfway by what contemporaries in the 16th and 17th century would have regarded as the European landmass, as it were. Now, another thing they said in Gotha was that they couldn't think of a historian in Germany mad enough to write a book like this. And that's a reminder of what a privilege it is to have the chance to do so, whatever you think of the results. I knew from the beginning that I didn't want to contribute to that long tradition of books about Europe, the history of Europe, and certainly from around 1500, which invest its history with a kind of cosmic significance, which explain its significance by anticipating modernity. For the same reason, the book never once refers to the early modern. That was a term which I used once to espouse liberally, and now seem, in this book at any rate, to have rejected wholeheartedly. Not only is its use peculiar